Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Lisn Ot. A lot to unpack this week. It's been a crazy couple weeks, a very interesting couple weeks, stuff that we didn't expect to happen, stuff that we kind of expected to happen, and everything in between, so we're going to get right into it. We got a lot to unpack, and we're going to start with the New York Islanders High School Hockey League this time. Switch it up a little bit. Vin, you were at the All-Star game on Wednesday in UBS Arena. You were on the ice in UBS Arena. How cool was that experience?
It was stellar. I had to do a little convincing, obviously, to get Mike Brown, our fearless leader, to go on the ice with me, actually. But no, it was such a great event, Dylan. We only had the one game there, 5-on-5, the traditional, unlike how we had it in Suffolk this year. But it was a real stellar process, and obviously, just like with Suffolk, with Nassau, now we're releasing our GoPro footage from there. We didn't have a stream of the game, unfortunately, but we were able to get some really incredible footage, quite honestly. We had some real stellar players like Marko Vucmilic that wore the GoPro, Ryan Franks, Matteo Belise. Even some of the referees were coming up to us in between periods like, can we please wear it? Like, they were actually begging us to wear the things. And, just what we were able to get from that, just the one game in general, was so amazing. And, everything else, too, in between, the actual lead up to the event, the warm-ups, and just the real touching ceremony that was beforehand, too, for Garrett Hagen as well.
Yeah, very touching that I got to watch back. It was really cool to see. The videos are out by now, so if you haven't seen them yet, go check out our Instagram at LI Sports Network. All the videos should be up by the time that this is released. Right. But such a cool event that, unfortunately, I didn't get to attend. And now I'm getting called out by high school kids for it. But them's the breaks, if you will. But such a cool event that, can only go up from here now. Yeah. Right? So, absolutely. Great stuff. Great content. Congratulations to all the kids that were nominated as All-Stars. You guys put on a phenomenal show that we are very thankful for because we get the content and we get to display it back to you and show everyone what you guys are doing and the amazing talent and skill that you possess. But yeah, no, just a cool event it seemed like.
Yeah, such a unique experience, and I hope they continue it again. It's one thing to say you go and watch a game there, obviously, but to say, hey, I played on the ice, and for some of the kids who've scored on Wednesday or, made some phenomenal saves, that takes to a whole nother meaning in my eyes.
No, absolutely. And the week of regular season games itself has been just as insane as I'm sure that experience was. We'll kick it off with, at the top, after this, we're actually going to go cover their game. So when this is again released, this will be in conclusion, but we're looking ahead to this game in the current moment of Friday, January 27th. Right. Syosset, Oceanside tonight. Syosset 2 games away from completing the undefeated season. If they win tonight, they, in a poetic sense, play Belmore Merrick as the next team to try to do it versus the last team to do it. That's going to be a crazy matchup on Sunday.
Oh, it sure will be, yeah. And they had a little bit of a tough task on Monday, too, going to play Long Beach. In Long Beach, it's never easy going there to play in Long Beach, especially when you are playing Long Beach. And, they held their ground. They had some real good, solid contributions there. David Desquie, of course, did his thing. Cameron Sheriff made some incredible saves. And honestly, Aaron Corbett made some real good saves, too, to keep that game where it was for the longest time. But, just the lethal offense of the Braves prevailed in that one. And, they're going to look to go 16-0 tonight, and then if that plays out properly, then they have a chance to do something really special on Sunday night.
They're really getting contributions from everywhere. Desquie, 4 points, a hand in every goal. Vito Mosa picked up a goal.
Yep.
The Gagliano brothers were playing out of their minds. Just unbelievable stuff from this Syosset team. They just don't look like they have a whole lot of cracks in their play.
No, what's crazy to me is, like, one guy, for example, like Zach Knoll, 12 points on the year. Like, that's, again, he's another one. He's playing a high-level AAA Junior Islanders hockey, and it's like, you forget about 2 of their top leading scorers. Zach Knoll's right there, and he's going to bury 98% of his chances probably on a breakaway.
I don't even think he was there Monday.
That's true.
He was not there Monday.
He wasn't. Oof. Yeah.
But, no.
But that just proves the depth of their team.
Yes.
Like, even if he's not there, like, look who else is stepping up. You have Ryan Cleary, who scored on Monday night, too. Like, he's another big name for them. Miles Hockman's coming along real nicely for them. On senior night, he had a real big performance. So
Mia Newley played strong.
Exactly.
They had 1, 2, 3, 4 multi-point games. I think everybody that got a point was involved in at least 3 of the goals.
Wow.
Or maybe 2. Because Clear had 2 points, Mianulli had 2 points, Mosa had 2 points, and Desqui had 4.
Wow.
So they got it from a core system there on Monday night, but I'm sure it's going to be just an all-out points fest tonight for them. And then Sunday should just be off the chain.
Yeah.
Although it's not, it's in Long Beach, I believe.
Yes.
Neither team has that home ice rink. Belmore Merrick plays at Newbridge.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's packed Sunday, knowing the implications of what is on the line.
Yeah.
And Belmore Merrick sneaking back into this playoff race. Win for Syosset tonight would lock them up, the 1 seed. But Belmore Merrick is right there as the 2, 26 points through 15 games. They've only lost twice.
Right, yeah. No, Belmore Merrick's another one where, they're getting real strong goaltending from that kid Ben Greco, who we saw Wednesday night at UBS Arena. He's really solid for them. They took down Roslyn, and, when you got Ryan Franks on the other side of that matchup, that's not an easy kid to handle, which I actually, now that I think about it, I don't believe he might have been there on Monday. Let's take a quick peek here. He was there, and they kept him off the score sheet. So that's 2 wins in itself right there, if you're asking me. And Massapequa was no pushover team either. So they have 2 losses, both of them to 1 goal losses to 2 really good teams in Bethpage and Valley Stream. And I think those kids will be getting up for that game on Sunday 100% because they know what it's like from last season to do so well in the regular season. But, we were able to talk to Keith Presti last week, and he said, too, as cool of an accomplishment as that is in the regular season, in hindsight, it doesn't really mean much if you don't back your words up in the postseason.
Yes.
And that's what matters for them going forward, I think. I think they're really fueled, and like I mentioned in the past, I think they're really going to have a chip on their shoulder come mid-February once the real postseason test comes.
No, they definitely will. It's going to be interesting because, like you said, with the scoring, to keep Ryan Franks off the score sheet, who is the league's leading scorer by leaps and bounds. He's got 54 points, 39 goals. That's the second best offense in this league in Roslyn. Yeah. Obviously, thanks in part to him and the performance that he's put on this season. He leads the league by 17 points, 39 goals, just unbelievable stuff from him. But I mean, there's so many talented kids in this division. Belmore Merrick has a ton of top scorers. Yeah. I believe they have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Marzalek.
They do. They have 3 top 10 scorers, and then Keith Presti is 11. So 4 right in the top 11, just to expand to get the point across. Yeah. They're not one to be reckoned, not to be messed with. One to be reckoned with.
No.
So they're going to be a tough test in the playoffs. Keith Presti said they have a sour taste in their mouth from last season.
Absolutely, and I don't blame him in the slightest. And the good thing about them is, you got one kid, for example, who's in that top 10, top 11, Nick Drogan, coming up from JV last year. Stellar season for him. They fall short in the junior varsity finals as well. So I think it doesn't even just run deep with the it runs deep throughout their whole organization. They lose in the JV finals too. They lose in the varsity semi. So I think that group as a whole, it's guys, this has got to be our time. If you want to talk about a revenge tour, this has got to be it, because they're losing kids too. I think Marzalek is done. Presti's got to be done after this year. They're losing kids too. This is you want to talk about the last dance. We joke about Kings Park and these other teams in Suffolk. This is the last dance for Belmore, in my opinion. This is their time to make a real serious case and say, hey, let's not only try and spoil Syosset's fun, but let's go win this whole thing while we're at it too.
Yeah, it is. And the test is going to be, can you get past Syosset? Because nobody has been able to at this point. So we'll find out Sunday if they're capable of doing so. And if the way the playoffs are going to shake out is the way that they're holding currently, Syosset 1, Belmore Merrick 2, that would set us up for a finals between Syosset and Belmore Merrick should they meet in the playoffs.
My 2 finals picks, just to put it out there. I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot right there. No, but listen, like you said too, those last couple of spots are interesting, and we had this conversation last pod about which of those teams are going to be out. Right now, I believe it's Long Beach who's out. Granted, they have 4 games at hand, exactly, compared to the rest of the field. So they got a little bit of ground to make up here too. But that last couple of weeks, for context, Long Beach and Massapequa play on the final day of the regular season, and Massapequa might have to win that game in order to get into the playoffs.
Yes.
In Long Beach, which is not going to be an easy task.
Yeah, let's turn our attention to Massapequa. They have 2 games left, Valley Stream and then Long Beach.
Right.
And those are a week apart. Sunday, which will be there. No, we will not. That's in Dix Hills. I thought we were going to be. We're not. But that game is sure to be a great one. And then in Long Beach, Sunday, February 5th versus Massapequa, or versus Long Beach, rather. But they are currently tied right now with Garden City, the team that we've been keeping our eye on to track them down. Both of them 9-6 with 2 games to play, obviously. Garden City plays, pulling this up, Rockville Center and Farmingdale. I mean, if you're looking at it from just a paper standpoint, the odds have to favor Garden City, who pulled off a phenomenal win against Half Hollow Hills on last Sunday, the 22nd, 2-1.
Yeah, crashed their senior night there in Dix Hills, and that's a big one for them in regulation too. No, it's now again. Granted, there's no such thing as the pity point, as we like to call it in Suffolk, where if you go to overtime, the losing team gets a point. So that makes it a little more intriguing in Nassau, where it's like, if you don't tie, then you better win it in regulation, because the losing team in overtime doesn't get anything to show for it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's one to watch out for. I think if you're a Garden City fan, you're cheering like crazy for Long Beach next Sunday, because if Massapequa comes out on top, well, you might be sitting at home in mid-February when you think you deserve to be playing in that sense. So
yeah, they'll be waiting, because both teams will play Sunday, and then Garden City will play Wednesday, and then have to wait 4 days until Massapequa plays on Sunday. So it'll be a waiting game to see. But Massapequa right now is in a little bit of a lull after winning 3 straight and looking like maybe they found it to take off. Lost to Syosset, obviously never an easy game, and then Belmore Merrick, another team that is surging. They lost the Belmore Merrick game just 2-0. So tough break there for them.
Yeah.
A game that maybe you could have pulled out, but just not able to get that goal. And like we said, Ben Greco just was playing phenomenal that night, as he has all season. And this Belmore Merrick team is just on a run.
Yeah, definitely. And, the way Belmore Merrick scored their goals, they weren't the prettiest by means, but they get the job done. I believe it was the 2 bounces in front there, and it was from 2 of their goal scorers. They were light too, if I'm not mistaken, because we were there on Sunday. They didn't have Marzalik. Polini scores, Seaman scores, so 2 guys who aren't really at the top of their goal scoring chart. But again, it proves to the depth of their team. Greco makes saves when he had to, and they're off and running. And as far as Massapequa goes, we had mentioned this before. We were curious to see how they would respond coming out of the Wantaw-Seaford Plain Edge game, because I think that was one where they held on for dear life in that one. And Friends they take care of. So do you think, okay, maybe are they back? Do they find their groove? But again, Syosset, Belmore are the 2 top teams in Nassau right now, and that was a real test, because if Massapequa was going to get into this playoff, those are one of the 2 teams they're probably going to have to play in round 1, unless Bethpage goes on a tear and Belmore or Syosset, fall out of the picture a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah, they had, looking at it too, credit to Belmore Merrick in that game against Massapequa. They took 1 penalty, so they didn't allow that power play to get going either, that we've seen have a lot of success this season. But yeah, it'll be interesting, because they picked up the wins that they needed to against Manhasset, Wantaw-Seaford Plain Edge, which was another really close game. Shouldn't have been, but it was. Credit to Wantaw-Seaford Plain Edge, who did pick up their first win this week against Levittown Hicks-Willis Meadow, so congratulations to them on getting a win. And then they beat, obviously, Friends, as you said. So it'll be interesting, because Valley Stream is no pushover. No. We saw them handle business the other night. And then Long Beach, obviously, is a really strong team with a lot of games in hand.
Yeah.
Their 3 losses right now would pin them up to 4th or 5th place.
Long Beach?
5th place, yes. Yeah. They have less losses right now than Half Hollow Hills, who is currently the 5th seed. So if they win out, they can vault themselves up. And we'll see what they can do. Yeah. They're playing well. They came out on fire in their first game back, and then they hit the roadblock in Syosset. But the cards are in their hand. Their destiny is controlled by them and them alone. They will play Half Hollow Hills tonight, another game that we'll be covering,
Yep.
the second half of our doubleheader. Then they play Levittown, Roslyn, tough game, Bethpage, tough game, Farmingdale, and then Massapequa to close it out.
Yeah, I think the magic number for them there is you gotta split. You gotta go 3-3 in that case. I mean, the thing that's not in their advantage right now is that three out of those 6 are not at Long Beach, which obviously Long Beach is their home arena. They're not really, they've played every game up to this point at Long Beach. Now, granted, 2 of those 3 are against teams that are not going to make the playoffs in the Ice Falcons and Farmingdale. I think Bethpage is your toughest matchup, in my opinion. I think Hills, the record is in Hills' favor, but I think that's going to be a lot closer than it might seem like. And Massapequa, like, that's a playoff game, in my opinion. Even though it's the last game of the regular season, like, for Massapequa has to treat every game from now up until the 5th as a playoff game. Long Beach has got to do the same there because, you know, who knows if they lose tonight against Hills and Bethpage, then it's your 3-2 in that stretch. If you lose to Massapequa, Pequa's got the head-to-head over you, and it just gets way too close in that sense. So I think if they can go even in that stretch, I think I like their chances to get back into the dance here, Long Beach.
And unfortunately, with them getting back in, if they do, somebody has to miss out. And it could be Garden City, it could be Massapequa,
right,
or it could be Roslyn.
Yeah.
Roslyn is 9-4 with 4 games to play. They play Long Beach Monday, Port Washington, who is 0-14, so you should win that game. Bethpage, who
tough one.
Really tough, and then Cold Spring Harbor to round it out Sunday, February 5th. If they go 2-2, they are 11-6. Massapequa and Garden City both currently have 6 losses. So if they both run the table, we run into the interesting predicament of everyone's at 11-6. Who misses out? And I'm not sure exactly who that would be. They beat Garden City, and they beat Massapequa, so that might prove to be big. That they might be in even if they split 2-2.
Exactly. Yeah, it kind of gets interesting with that because when it's more than 2 teams tied at a certain point total, it could go to either most wins, goals against, goal differential. So it's a little interesting in that sense. But my opinion for Roslyn goes is that as long as 55's suiting up and he's healthy, like that kid just takes him to new heights. MVP, in my opinion, MVP of the league and just best player overall in that league. Like. And just to, and I don't mean to get off a little topic here, but just to see him wearing the GoPro on Wednesday night, and you go home and you watch, and you just see like how fast he is with the hand movements and everything. It's like you can't stop him. Like he's another one where it's like similar to Kankowski. You can't stop him. You just gotta hope that you can contain him.
Yeah, and we can get his thoughts as we move into our special guest segment. We are going to have Ryan Franks on as our first special guest. But he will not be dialing in over the phone. We're going to have him in person interviewed at Long Beach.
Right.
We're obviously not there right now. So future Vin and future Dylan, if you could get us to Long Beach, that would be fantastic right now. All right, here now with Roslyn forward Ryan Franks. Ryan, thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
We're doing good. So you're leading the league in points right now. How do you prepare to play in such a physical and fast league, and what do you attribute to your success?
So obviously hockey's a team sport, and no matter how many points I have, teams are going to start figuring stuff out. So I think at the end it comes to team play and just coming together as a team and making plays, because it's not going to be a one-man show in playoffs. It's not going to be, not even a 2-man show. It's going to take everyone. It's going to take goaltending, defense, and offense. And we'll see where it goes from there,
Yeah, Ryan, you've had a strong start to the year. Obviously, your team has as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the team aspect of everything. You got some real good pieces around you, like Mishko Vaschak, Steven Jarahi. There's a long list of players there.
Yeah.
What do you like about their games so far as well that have kind of helped you? You had, obviously, Cash Bishop had a big overtime winner for you guys a few weeks back. So what do you like about their games as well surrounding your play?
Yeah, they're both we got really good teammates on this team. Mishko, Jordan Sirota.
Yeah.
Mishko is a forward actually, and so is Jordan.
Right. Okay.
So to have them pop back on defense to help us try and win games, that shows a lot about their character. It shows a lot about what this team stands for.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can continue with that strong defensive mindset going into playoffs.
Yep.
Going into playoffs, speaking of which, what do you think it's going to take for you guys to win a Nassau County championship? And who do you think, in your opinion, is going to be the toughest team to get through?
So obviously, Syosset is a big one. They're 13-0 right now. They're looking like they're going to have an undefeated season. We are probably going to be around the 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th seed. So they're going to be an early contender. But I think that it's going to take a lot of defense as the season goes on. We've been letting around 4 goals a game, I'd say, something like that, which is definitely too much, especially going into playoffs where you got very strong offensive teams, especially in the top 3. Yeah. So if we can tighten it up in our defensive zone, I have no issues that will create offensively.
The only other thing I'd like to ask you, too, is about your travel play. You play with the Junior Islanders, a real prestigious organization. And that's another league, too, where you're tasked with constant fast play, physical battles. Does that kind of play into how you play in Nassau at all, or does the kind of strategic play make a difference as far as both the leagues that you're playing in?
So, obviously, the speed of the game is very different, but it doesn't make this league any easier.
Right.
There's a lot of competition, a lot of Tier 1 guys in this league that make your life very difficult. Obviously, teammates and former teammates and players you've been playing against all your life. So, playing 18U AAA, it does help as terms of the speed because you got a lot of it's a Tier 1 sport, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to high school, it's kind of a mix between single A, double A, triple A. But we got a lot of good AAA guys on our team. Even our single A guys, they come, they help, they support, they put up points too. So yeah, I think that the speed and the strength doesn't really amount to much of a difference in these leagues.
Okay.
Great. And then last question. What is it like to be nominated as an all-star for the Nassau County Hockey League and then to get to play at UBS Arena and take that experience in?
Yeah, it's definitely an honor. It's something only a kid dreams of, you know. I've been going to Nassau Coliseum when I was little to watch the Islanders, and I've been watching them at UBS ever since they've been there. So to take the ice at UBS after watching, you know, your idols skate on that same ice, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and it was a great time, definitely.
Good. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
It was a privilege, and good luck the rest of the way and in the playoffs.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Special thank you again to Ryan Franks, Roslyn forward, who's having just a phenomenal season. Again, we touched on leading the league in scoring, going to win that scoring title, and hopefully propel them through the playoffs should they make it there. He's going to be really tough to stop. As much as we talk about Syosset, he could be just as tough to stop by himself if he really gets hot at the right time.
Absolutely, yeah. And there are pieces around him that I've mentioned too, and you've mentioned too, that are not pushovers either. You know, Mishko Vaschak's another one who's a really strong, mobile defenseman who can move the puck for them. Sarada, Jarahi's another one who's just they're all complimenting to him, and I think if he's able to get them the puck in spots where they can succeed, whether it be finishing or getting the puck back to Franks, I think that's a real good recipe for them. And I think as long as they put together a strong defensive effort in front of their goaltending, I think they can play a real upset card because all it takes is one game in the postseason.
That's it. It's win or go home. And speaking of the postseason, we are charging towards the Suffolk County postseason. So that leads us into our next special guest, Nick D'Andrea of the St. Anthony's Ice Friars. We're joined now by St. Anthony's Ice Friars forward, Nicholas D'Andrea. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thank you for joining us. So first question that I want to ask you is, you guys were 1-4 to start the season, and you're since 13-1. You rattled off an insane amount of wins. What changed in your guys' locker room after that 1-4 start?
Well, I mean, I think the leadership from DeLugos stepped into play, and also, it was a long break from the last time we played. The chemistry wasn't quite there, and we're also a little higher on our own talent. So it was just good to get back, but we found our groove, so it feels good to be back.
Nick, we talked a lot early on in the season about how TJ Olmschneider's come in has done not just his job, but a big portion of his job, bigger role of his job than we more expected. And he's given you guys a lot of big wins season. What have you liked about his play and playing in front of him so far this season?
TJ's been great. He's been unbelievable. I mean, I don't really have much to talk about him, but he's unbelievable. He stops everything. He gives us a shot to win every time he's in the net.
He's been one to watch this season. It's been good. What do you guys think it's going to take to repeat as county champs?
Well, we know what we're in for. A lot of good teams are locked up for some spots right now, and we just got to stay confident. I think we have what it takes, but I think confidence is key right now for us. We have to stay up.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the talk too we've had early on the season is not just your team, obviously, but a lot of teams across the league have had these problems with attendance here and there, and it's shown, whether it be you guys or just teams in general. And you guys are one team in particular where everyone shows up. You guys are one of the undoubtedly favorites in this division this year. So how important is that for you guys going forward? And it kind of seems like you guys have gotten that full team effort so far this year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely would. I mean, if we stay healthy, I think we can do it again. But we just got to stay hot. Like I said, the confidence is key for us. Staying up in the locker room is big. And again, I think if we stay healthy, I really do think we have a shot.
No, I think you guys do too, especially the way things are playing out. You guys are clicking at the right time. It looks like everything's been going your way. What's it like to play with somebody like Gavin Cotta, who's having a really tremendous season this year, taking a lot of steps forward from last year?
Playing with him makes it easy for me, and that's just the easy way to put it. It feels like I'm always open for him. He always passes the puck to me. There's never any issues on the bench with him. He's just a great guy all around, and it's fun playing with him. He makes it really easy.
Yeah, definitely. And last one for me here, at least. You guys close out the regular season on Wednesday. Big tilt against Smithtown. They took you guys down round one. You beat them up in round two. What's the message and mindset that you guys have going forward into Wednesday's matchup with them?
Well, after our game 2 days ago or whatever it was against Kings Park, we just got to stay hot. I mean, I think we have the momentum right now, and I just think we got to take it to them. We can't take anyone lightly. That's what we did a couple months ago, and that's what happened to go 1-3 or 4. I'm not sure what it was, but we just got to stay hot, and momentum's key right now. So, yep.
All right, yeah. And then, obviously, looking ahead to the playoffs, you guys are in, so you're going to have your spot locked up. As of right now, you're playing against Sachem in round one. That obviously could change depending on how this last week shakes out. But if you guys are to take them on in round one, what's your feeling on that matchup?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I mean, I'm not too worried. I think we're playing the best hockey we've been playing all season. So I just think we got to stay hot. I mean, it's consistency, confidence, everything together. I think our defense is playing the best it's been playing all year. Our goaltending's been locked down, and I think we're in a good spot.
All right, yeah, man. I think you guys are too. Really looking forward to watching you guys in that game against Smithtown and then in the playoffs and beyond.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it should be fun. It should be exciting.
Definitely.
Absolutely should. It always is a fun time when you guys are on the ice. You never know what you're going to see.
Never know. Yeah.
But Nick, thank you again for joining us on the pod. Really appreciate you taking the time out, and good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick. Take care.
Special thank you again to Nicholas DeAndrea, forward for the St. Anthony's Ice Friars, having a stellar season. Yeah. They've really, really turned their season around.
They sure have, yeah. And like you said, one of the first questions we asked them was, how do you come back from that 0-3 overall start, 1-4 to begin? And, I think he said it perfectly. Confidence is key. with them going forward. They've exuded nothing but that going forward. They've only lost since that 1-4 start just one game, and it was to East Islip. And we've talked about them plenty on this podcast. They're no pushover team too, and I think if that comes where they get the rematch with them, they'll be ready to go for that. But I think he said it perfectly. Consistency is key with them, and he didn't hold back too, which I loved about it. They're a hot team right now, and that means a lot going into this final stretch here. Where if you're feeling confident about yourselves going into this last week or so, and especially going into the postseason, that makes a world of difference, and especially going into a big rivalry game Wednesday night against Smithtown.
Yeah, and we'll unpack a lot more of this in our next week's episode. As you see down there at the bottom, we'll be hinting at what's to come. And I did say next week. We do usually release bi-weekly every other week, but we will be doing something next week, so more to come on that. But yeah, to look in right now, this past week, we had Northport Huntington lock up their playoff spot, and we had teams solidify their spaces. So we know Sachem's going to be 5, Northport's going to be 6, and Connecticut Sayville is going to be 7.
Right.
1 through 4 up in the air, and the 8th seed as well is up in the air. Yeah. Where do we want to start here as far as you want to start at the middle of the pack, and then we'll unpack everything else? Why don't we start at 5, 6, 7?
I like that. I agree. Yeah.
We know who's at 5, 6, 7. Sachem kind of stumbling to the finish, but luckily locked up their playoff spot in enough due time.
Right.
Tough loss against Smithtown, 5-3, but just really, really interesting loss to East Islip. They lost 10-3 in that game after 2 games that we thought their defense was figured out.
Yeah, that was a real, I don't know if interesting or, I'm going to say confusing. I was a little confused after that one because, like you said, They beat the best team in the league at that point in KPC. They hold them to just 2 goals, and we're sitting there thinking, "Wow, is Sachem that team now? Like, do we have to put them in that conversation?" And I think we both were like, "Hang on, let's pump the brakes a little bit because they still have a challenging final regular season games in East Islip Smithtown, and East Islip just beat the doors off them, quite honestly. And I don't want to be that blunt about it, but I think like." In Sachem's case, like you get on the board there, but it's too little, too late. It's 5-0 before they get on the board, and it's they did a real good job. Even though Kankowski scored in the game, I think they did a real good job in containing him. They got him about as frustrated as you can possibly get without sending him to the box late in the third. But I mean, yeah, I think confusing is the word I want to go for with Sachem here as far as the defense, because it looked like they had it figured out in that span you had mentioned. They had like 60 goals allowed in their first 13, 14 games. Then they allow like 8 or so. So I don't know. I don't know. I want to hear your take on it because you were there and you called the game, and I was flipping over on your side, and I was like, that's real? That's a real score?
It confusing, I think, is the right word to use. They just turned the puck over a little too much in that game. And they did it against Smithtown too, and Smithtown took advantage, but they, opening up the game like the way that they did to give up 3 goals in a span of what was it? It was 3 goals in the period, but the 2 goals in the first couple minutes to Ivers and then Anatra or is Lafada. I think it was Lafada because then Ivers. I'm getting my games mixed up here. Ivers against Connecticut Sayville, which we'll get into that in a minute because that played out about the same way that this game did. But was I looking at the wrong game? I think I was looking at the wrong game. I was looking at the wrong game.
Okay.
So they gave up 3 goals in the first half of the first period.
Yeah.
Bad turnovers. They tried to clear the puck. Ivers gloves it down, nets the first goal. Anatra nets the second one on a one-time from Magro, and then Anatra just collects a loose rebound in front of the crease after Alessandro Giulietti makes a great save. But there's nothing you can do on the second chance. Yeah. And before you know it, you're down 3-0. And then, yes, like you said, they got it to 5. And then Sachem tried to start responding, but it's too little too late at that point. And I think it was the turnovers that really just killed them. Yeah. Not maybe so much the defense. At a certain point, you're just kind of like, this is what it is. Like, we're not going to kill ourselves over defense at this point because we're down 5-0.
Yeah. But
I think they got to firm up the defense back to whatever they were doing before they went on this stretch of losing back-to-back games to end the season. The turnovers kind of need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it was so much Sachem as it was East Islip, because they came out and did the same thing against Connecticut Sayville. A couple nights
East
later
Islip.
on their senior night,
Yeah.
East Islip beat them 8-1, again scoring 3 goals in that first period.
Yeah, that was one where East Islip they didn't let up. Like it was nonstop with them. Another one where they score 3 goals, this time all 3 coming in the latter half of the first portion of the first period. But still in all, I think that was one where it was very similar in the sense of turnovers. And I had mentioned it in the broadcast, and I was a little critical of Connecticut in that game. But you look back at all the goals that East Islip scores, half of those 8, more than half of those 8 actually, are coming on special teams. And, good teams, especially on power plays, they convert on those opportunities. Now, understand here that East Islip had 4 goals shorthanded, and if you're Connecticut, that can't happen. Like that just can't happen. So I think with East Islip, they're the ones where their confidence is soaring for them. They have a real unique opportunity ahead of them on, I believe it's Wednesday or Monday when they play Middle Country.
East Islip, yes,
Wednesday. If they win that game, then they'll be the outright number 1 this season, and deservedly so, especially with their play as of late. But yeah, I think it's very similar as to how both of the opponents against East Islip played. I think both teams were lazy in the sense of turnovers and just giveaways. I know there were 2 goals for East Islip that really stood out to me as just carelessness, especially at their own blue line, the opponent being, in this case, Connecticut. So I think, again, good teams take advantage of those opportunities. East Islip did so on last week against Connecticut. They did the same against Sachem. And, I think for them, being Connecticut here, I don't think there's a lot of confidence in that room right now. I don't know how you feel. We haven't really gotten a chance to talk about individual teams by ourselves. But if I'm looking at the 7 teams right now that are in the postseason, I think the one that I'm least confident in playing spoiler in round 1 is Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it in one of their pre-games. I believe it was the St. Anthony's game, maybe. They hadn't lost more than 2 in a row all season. They had some signature wins. They beat Smithtown.
Yep.
They beat Sachem. Really good wins.
Yeah.
And then you play them the second time around, and it looks like a completely different hockey team. Obviously, you got the 3-0 win against Ward Melville, which was big, but you really stumbled to the finish.
Yeah.
After the tie with West Islip, you're 1-6 in your last 7 going into the playoffs. Yeah. You got the spot locked up, but what kind of, they have a lot of time off. They played the 23rd, so they'll have a couple weeks off before playoffs. I believe that's 2 weeks. Yeah. But you're right. Like, what kind of confidence do you have going into a playoff series where you're going to be playing any one of Kings Park, Smithtown, East Islip, maybe even St. Anthony's by a long shot? You get shut out by Northport Huntington, who's a hot team right now and pretty good in their own right. But to just not have the offense going, it's like what I watch with the Islanders. Like, the offense just isn't going, and it's so hard to get up off the mat every night. Yeah. You work so hard for that one goal, but you're throwing a water bottle on a forest fire. Like, where does it stop? So I agree with you. Like, it's, what kind of confidence do they have going into the playoffs? Just stumbling into it. Nobody ever wants to stumble into it. You want to get hot at the right time. Absolutely. But maybe they're just tired in a sense where this 2 weeks is what they need to just practice, really over prepare for whoever they're going to play, and then just lay it all out on the line, because that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to sell out a lot for goals. They're not a very aggressive playing team. They're very middle of the road, conservative. They'll just take what's given to them, and they'll be happy with it. They got to play aggressive against one of these teams, because that's the only way they're going to come out with a win.
Absolutely. One of the two things I want to touch on them. One of them being, I think goaltending is a real question of mine as to who's going to start, and it's not a knock on any of the 3. I think they're a unique team where at this point they're the only team in Suffolk now with the triple-headed monster in goal. Who do you throw back there? That's a question of mine. And again, I'm not saying this as a knock on either of those 3. I just think like that's a big decision going forward. Yeah. You have one win in 2023. you've gotten ever since they won 2 in a row in mid-November, they've gone. Oh, I don't. The math here is just brutal. What is it?
It would be 1-8-1.
1-8-1. Thank you. Like, who do you put back there? Do you give it to Hughes? Do you give it to Keel? Do you give it to the seasoned veteran and Tolikowski? That's a tough decision for them. You know,
Yeah.
That's one for me, and I think the second one is, like you said, I think the offense is a real concern of mine. I think, like, if they play we're going hypothetical here. Let's say they play a Smithtown or a Kings Park, that you got to win 2-1, 1-0. Like, I cannot see Connecticut Sable scoring more than 2 goals in a playoff game. I'm sorry.
They don't score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
They've scored 9 against West Islip, 7 against Sachem. They lost. They scored 5 against Ward Melville, 5 against Sachem. But again, these teams are not of the utmost defensive class.
No.
Right? Like, West Islip, most goals allowed. Sachem, second most goals allowed. Ward Melville, last place team.
Yeah.
You're scoring goals in games that you should be winning.
No, of course, yeah.
And against teams that you should score against, you got to get those bounces and those breaks, and you just got to find a way to put up more against the teams that, are tougher to beat. They have the talent. They're young, albeit, so maybe they need the experience, and this will be good for them to be in a playoff game against a really tough team. They can know what it's like for next year, but you're right.
Yeah.
It's what kind of confidence you're going into the playoffs with. And the goaltending decision is tough. There's a lot of teams that are going to have to make goaltending decisions going into the playoffs.
That's true.
They're one. St. Anthony's has a decision to make, although that might be getting easier for them. Probably not. I can honestly see Sachem having a decision to make. Do you trust Giulietti? I do, but
I do.
Does Scott Loeb deserve a look? Like, who do you feel confident in? We don't know what's going on in practice. How does Scott Loeb look?
That's true.
If you're West Islip or Middle Country battling for that last playoff spot, do you start Sittler, Lucente? Do you start Winter, Buccino? Those are 2 goaltenders that are clicking at the right time.
That's true.
It's such a flip of the coin.
Yeah.
For Connecticut Sable's sake, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Because you need more than 2 sides. So it will be interesting. But they closed their season out, did Connecticut Sable, against Northport Huntington, who, as I touched on before, starting to get it going a little bit. They made up enough ground now that they have won enough games to lock themselves into the 6th seed. Yeah. They still have 1 more game to go against West Islip, and they can play big-time spoiler on Monday and make West Islip wait until Wednesday to see if they're in the playoffs or not.
That's true, yeah. And they're another one where, we had mentioned this before, Nick DeAndre, about the attendance, and we're finally starting to see this team take full shape as far as what they look like when they have a full attendance. And 2 wins. They take on Middle Country. Late goal by Blake Belt in that one. That was a real exciting finish. Final couple seconds there. They take a late penalty. This is the Cougars, and Northport makes them pay. And like I said before, good teams do that to you. And then they blow the doors off Connecticut, a struggling team. They take advantage of. And like you said, Wednesday's game is a lot more interesting than people think, because yes, Northport does have the 6th seed lockup. They can't go up. They can't go down. But I think that last game is important for them to kind of say, like, because I think if it's just 1 point for West Islip in that one. If West Islip gets 1 point, they're in, because they don't need to win.
No, they do. Yes, because they would still just have a 2-point lead over.
But they have the head-to-head.
No, they don't. They split.
That's right.
So then it goes to goals against. And barring that East Islip goes out and beats the living daylights out of Middle Country by 13 or more, and West Islip would have to shut them out. So it is imperative that West Islip win on Monday night.
In any phase.
Because if not, destiny is not in their own hands.
No.
And they worked really hard to get there.
Of course, yeah.
They have been playing some really tough hockey as of late. And they're in a position now where they can control their own destiny.
Correct.
And if they win, they're in. It's as simple as that. But that's what it takes. And Northport getting hot at the right time. They've won 2 in a row. They can win 3 in a row and roll into the playoffs against, as it stands right now, Kings Park Comac, who they've tied this season. Yeah. They've also lost 6-0 to them. They've played East Islip close, lost 3-2 to them. And 5-2, close games.
Right.
Lost 5-2 to Smithtown, and then 8-0 to Smithtown. So they've played close games, and they've played blowout games, flip the coin, but you can also chalk it up to they didn't have people there.
Right.
Because we know that this team is, when they're fully rostered, a really good team. They just have a different identity than they did last season.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it showed in that Kings Park game, 6-6. They had everybody there, and they hung with one of the best teams in the county this year. And it's a unique stretch for them here. I think that they're the exact opposite of where a team like Connecticut is, where they have little to no confidence going into the postseason. I think Northport's got every single bit of confidence in the world. They got nothing to lose, and I even think Sachem's got more confidence than Connecticut is. Now, granted, Sachem drops their first two, but Sachem comes close to coming back in that one against Smithtown. They're down 4-0, I believe. They make it 4-3. Nolte gets the late winner on the power play in that one. So, again, I think that middle fray is interesting, but I think if you're Northport and Sachem, you got a lot more to look forward to than if you're Connecticut Sable at this point.
Yeah, I think I really like Northport's chances. I like Sachem's chances too. The offense is always there, always is. It always will be. But the defense is the question. For Northport, it's a question of both. It really is a question of just who do you have there, who's available to you.
Sure.
If everybody's there, I really like that game to be really good. Barring who they're gonna play, because there's still a shuffle up at the top, but it will be interesting to see. And what will also be really interesting to see is who gets this 8th seed. West Islip, Middle Country. Those are the two options. Ward Melville was eliminated because West Islip beat them the other night.
Yeah.
So that put West Islip into the spot right now. But as we talked about, West Islip controls their own destiny moving into this final week of regular season play. But a loss and a Middle Country win puts the Cougars back in the playoffs after they missed last year.
Absolutely, yeah. They're going to need, 46 saves last time they played East Islip that Sittler made? Regardless of what the number is, they're going to need that and more to beat East Islip, in my opinion, on Wednesday. Now, granted, again, sounding like a broken record here, crazier things have happened this year, so it wouldn't surprise me if Middle Country is able to pull it off. But again, East Islip's going to have something to play for in that game. Like, they're in the playoffs. They're going to host the first-round playoff game regardless. But they have something to play for, too. Like, they could be the 1 seed with that game. Like, they're not going to just say – they're not going to lollygag out there and just, say, hey, we're here. Like, they have something to play for as well. And if they lose that game, it's going to be one of Smithtown or – no, it won't be St. Anthony's because East Islip has the head-to-head against them. It's going to be one of Smithtown or Kings Park because Kings Park's got to play West Islip. St. Anthony's plays Smithtown.
Yeah.
So if East Islip doesn't at least, they got to win.
They have to win.
They have to win if they
It's
want the
simple
one.
enough.
Yeah.
It's simple enough in they have to win. They have to. So I just want to confirm when that game is going to take place.
Which one, Kings
The
Park?
East Islip game.
That's
I know
Wednesday.
Wednesday at 9:20. So that's the last game of the regular season. East Islip Middle Country closes out the regular season. At that point, we will know if East Islip has to win.
That's right, because Kings Park plays beforehand.
Kings Park plays beforehand and Smithtown plays beforehand. So if both those teams win, East Islip falls down to 3 for the time being.
Right. Yeah.
Because it would be 31, 31,
Yep.
20, 30.
Yep.
East Islip wins, they get right back into it, 32, 1 seed. And what would be crazy enough, it wouldn't be, because I was going to say what could be crazy enough is that they could play Middle Country back-to-back weeks, 1-8 in the playoffs, but it wouldn't work out like that because of the West Islip win Wednesday against Ward Melville.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So must win possibly for both teams, definitely for Middle Country, no matter what happens. Or I guess not. If West Islip wins, then that's over.
That's true.
It wouldn't matter if Middle Country wins or not. They would fall a point short, unfortunately.
West Islip plays Monday.
West Islip, Kings Park, Ward Melville on Monday, Smithtown, St. Anthony's, and East Islip Middle Country on Wednesday, and that is the last 4 games of the Suffolk County regular season. And then we are in playoff territory.
Wouldn't want it any other way.
It's going to get crazy. But, so now we have it laid out there. It's West Islip, it's Middle Country. These are your options. You know the opponents. You know what's at stake. Both teams are playing pretty good hockey right now.
Yeah.
West Islip is starting to get hot. They're starting to figure it out after a little bit of a mid-season lull. Who are you looking towards to be that 8?
I think it's West Islip's to lose at this point. I mean, they control their own destiny more than Middle Country has to hope Northport wins on Monday flat out. I think it's them, and I think with Middle Country, I think that loss to Ward Melville absolutely hurts them. I think that was one where, again, that one was off the chain. What came about in that game, neither of us were expecting. And, between the whole delay and everything, it was just like that was a chance for them to really say, okay, the 8th seed is ours to lose now. Now they lose to Ward Melville, not just lose to them, but lose in regulation. They had a chance to go to overtime with Northport. Northport scores late in the third there. I think it's just, for Middle Country's standpoint, I think it's just missed opportunities in their case. I think they had the chances. They played St. Anthony's very tough. They played them very tough, 2-1. And you had spoken to Nick after that game, and he admitted that they may have taken them a little too lightly, and in their case, it benefits them. They end up coming out with the win regardless. But I think with Middle Country, it's just too many missed opportunities at this point. Like, you have to, they have to hope West Islip loses in regulation on Monday, and they have to do basically.
No, they don't have to. They just need West Islip to lose, regulation or not.
Yeah, but
regulation or not.
Yeah, and then they have to do their biggest game of the season if that case comes down to Wednesday. Like, you have to win that game. You have to play your best game of the season to play a team of that equal or even greater caliber if you make the dance.
Oh yeah, West Islip Wednesday, Middle Country Wednesday is win or go home. No matter, win, lose, draw for West Islip. If they win, doesn't matter. But loss, tie, overtime loss, a win for Middle Country is a playoff spot.
Yeah.
They've just really had, as you said, some unfortunate breaks since the calendar turned to 2023. If we want to talk about this, they have lost 4 games by a combined 5 goals. Now, when they went on their run to get into playoff positioning, they were getting these bounces. They were winning these games, and they were getting the breaks in their favor. It has not happened as of late. If you look at the similarities in the schedule between West Islip and Middle Country, it's actually really crazy. So you look at it as blowout loss to Kings Park, blowout loss to Kings Park. Really close game with Smithtown, really close game with Smithtown. West Islip led that game 4-2 against Smithtown. I was on the south side calling Northport senior night, keeping an eye on that scoreboard because it meant a lot to all the teams in that gameplay that night. I couldn't believe my eyes when it was 4-2 West Islip after Smithtown went up 2-0. Crazy. And then Smithtown bounced back. Again, craziness. Couldn't believe that happened. Middle Country loses to them by 2. Now keep in mind that's their biggest loss, goal differential wise, this month. West Islip comes out, plays St. Anthony's, really tough. Middle Country has a lead over St. Anthony's.
That's right.
Really tough. Give up 2 goals. Jack DeLugos nets the game winner on a power play. And what really sucked was Dylan Cochran letting one go from the blue line, and it just sneaks through with eyes.
Yep.
Really great shot, but if you're Middle Country, that is just heartbreaking. Then you play West Islip, a team that you've beaten before. They got their first win against them, played them really tough. West Islip was below them at the point. Middle Country.
Ward Melville?
Ward Melville.
Okay.
Middle Country, Ward Melville. Who was I saying? Was I saying? Oh, well, they played Ward Melville. Middle Country played Ward Melville. Team they've beaten before. Team that is below them in the standings. Can close out their season. It was Middle Country senior night. Ready to go. They had the lead 2-1. And then they were down 3-2. Again, tough break. Jake Mangano off the leg of pad of Sittler into the back of the net. Late Lucente.
Sorry.
No, please correct me. I'm rolling through a heated tangent right now. Off the leg pad of Lucente into the back of the net. Tough break again, just not getting the bounce. And then they play Northport Huntington really tough on a Sunday. Overtime, Blake Belt. No, right before overtime. Should have gone to overtime. Right before overtime, power play, Blake Belt on the doorstep. They lose that game. The difference currently stands that West Islip, though they lost a really close game to St. Anthony's, they were able to beat Ward Melville. Not only beat them, handedly. Handedly win that game. They got the offense clicking. Kieran Pollard, ridiculous goal. Aiden Conti got on the score sheet. Cameron Dorfman finally found the back of the net. I know you've been waiting for that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mentioned him a while back as far as, one guy who's got to get going for them. And I think their depth scoring as a whole has to feel good now, because we had questioned that for the longest possible time. And now it's It's not the Kieran Pollard show where, yes, he's doing his own thing. He did his own thing against Sachem in that one contest. But I think, again, it just goes down to the confidence, middle country. Like, if the opportunity comes up on Wednesday where you have that chance to potentially be the biggest spoilers of this season, by all means, go for it. But it's a wait and see for them now, because if West Islip keeps rolling and has their confidence going, that game on Wednesday is meaningless for the Cougars, and it's more important for East Islip, because if it means nothing for the Cougars, East Islip's not going to just say, oh, it's not meaningless for us too. That's the one seed. The road to a county championship will have to go through the East Islip Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and we touched on this a couple weeks ago on the podcast that the Northport Huntington games for both West Islip and Middle Country were going to be the difference. Mm-hmm. And would you know it, Monday against Northport Huntington, that game could be the difference for West Islip and for Middle Country. Middle Country didn't beat them. If West Islip does, they're in. Middle Country also lost to Ward Melville. West Islip did not.
That's right.
So those two games right there could be the difference in the 8th seed. So we'll see how that shakes out. Yeah. But now we will turn our attention, as you said, to who the road to the Suffolk County Championship is going to run through. Be it your candidates right now, East Islip, Smithtown, Kings Park, Comac. It's not as simple for the bottom two teams as it is for East Islip.
Right.
Now, we touched on again. East Islip has the last game of the regular season, so anything could happen. But Smithtown win, Kings Park, Comac win. All East Islip would have to do is win.
Right.
Smithtown loss, Kings Park, Comac loss. The game means nothing. Yeah. East Islip will be the 1 seed before their season even ends.
Right.
So, a lot to go. Kings Park, Comac plays Ward Melville. Smithtown plays St. Anthony's. East Islip plays Middle Country. Kings Park, Comac gave the help to the Chiefs that they needed. We didn't know if it was going to happen. I had mentioned this to you. I don't know if I mentioned it to the audience, but I mentioned it to you. All East Islip needed was Kings Park, Comac to go 1-1. And their last 2 games were St. Anthony's and Ward Melville. Yeah. And we said, it's obviously not going to be Ward Melville.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be St. Anthony's.
Right.
And be it the refereeing of the game, obviously the parents were not happy with the performance of the Stripes in that game, but it happened the way it happened. Yeah. Credit to St. Anthony's. You shut out the best offense in the league this year for the first time. And they're now playing spoiler because St. Anthony's cannot claim the 1 seed themselves, but they can cause some havoc, and they have. So now it's all up in the air.
That's right.
1 game to decide it. You could have any mix of top seeds 1 through 3. Where do you see it all shaking out?
I mean, with Kings Park, they have a greater chance to go as high as 2, obviously, because they're playing not a lesser opponent in Ward Melville, but Ward Melville's out. And St. Anthony's Smithtown, that's the stands are going to be packed for that one. Come on, The first time they play each other, it's 1-goal game. We have the big scuffle at the end of that contest. They play each other 5-3. I think that was Cotta or Nealon who scores late in that one.
Gavin Cotta, if it is him, has a hunch.
Smith, okay, it was
Dylan Smith.
But Cotta did have an assist in that one, and he's been fine in the score sheet as of late. Another big piece for them this season.
He likes playing Smithtown.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who on that team doesn't? You know what I mean? We mentioned him too with St. Anthony's. He's such a feisty player in front of the net. You can move him, but it's not going to be easy, man. It's not going to be easy at all. And we even asked Nick about it too, and he said too, he makes his job so easier. Crazy stat I'm just looking at right now too here. Guess which player on St. Anthony's, the one player, does not have a single penalty minute all this season?
I feel like you want me to say Cotta, but is it DeAndrea?
It's DeAndrea.
Yeah.
The only player on the ice for Friars who does not have a single penalty minute season. And he's right that Cotta makes his job so much easier because it's not only another scoring option, it takes a load off his shoulders on special teams. And again, you're going to have to move him in front of the net. He's a tough cookie to move in front of there. And teams have had a problem with him on special teams this season that we've seen so far. He
was going hard at it with Jacob Quinn on Wednesday against Kings Park Comac. And I said the winner of special teams in that game was going to be the one to come out on top. Kings Park kept taking so many penalties, and again, be it the referees, be it whatever higher power that the game wants to be accredited to.
Right.
Sure. But The fact of the matter is, St. Anthony's took 1 penalty, and they scored 2 power play goals.
Yeah.
They won.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trick of the trade against Kings Park Comac. They're not going to take a ton of penalties. They do have players that are prone to it, but if you can outscore them on the power play, that's the key, I think, to trying to beat this team who has not been beat a lot this year.
I have 2 questions for you regarding that St. Anthony's KPC game. First one's a little more blunt and straightforward, but do you think I guess we'll just call it ejection. Do you think the ejection of O'Neal in that one was too much?
That's such a loaded question,
I know.
man. Such a loaded question.
But I want to hear. We haven't talked about it, you and me, and I want to get your thoughts on it because I know, like you said, I know the Knights' parents extremely disagree, and if you want, you can say your piece. I'll say my piece from what I've seen so far. Yeah. But like, that's a big turning point in that game. Like, it's 1-0 at that point.
Yeah.
And here's, you know what? I'm gonna say my piece first.
Go ahead.
Here's why I think it's a little too much. We have seen this season a lot of different instances where the tempers have flared. We've seen it with Kings Park earlier on in the season where they played Smithtown at the end of the game where there was now here's the context. If there are penalties given out at 0 minutes 0 seconds, it is an automatic suspension. That's the rules. That's the rules straight up. We saw it with Smithtown and Kings Park in their first meeting. Now, granted, that game doesn't really mean much because of the paperwork issue, so that's kind of squashed in that sense. But we've seen plenty of other instances this season where things have just straight up gotten out of hand. We saw it firsthand with Middle Country and Ward Melville. Again, Hintz,
that was insane.
Yeah, listen, now Hintz wasn't as much in the fray as O'Neal was, but there were so many ejections in that game, and that one's a little bit different, obviously. But I don't know, Dylan. Like, I feel like that was too much. I feel like that was too much. It was such a pivotal point in the game. Now, there have been other quotes and reports in that one where other things have happened where I haven't really gotten a full look on the matter per se. But, like, when I saw Joey O'Neal going off, I was thinking, okay, maybe he's just giving someone, like, a piece of equipment or whatever. And I'm watching it at home that night, and you're saying, oh, my gosh, he's leaving the game. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, again, I think if O'Neal stays in the game for them, I still think St. Anthony's wins that game. I think there was not much going on Kings Park side from the offensive standpoint. Yeah. So I think St. Anthony still wins that game. Sorry to say it, but I just think I don't know. I want to hear your take on it.
Go ahead. Well, I'll start with what you just finished with. Is that there was not a lot going on the Kings Park side.
Right.
It was very early in the second period, and the game at that time was 1-0.
Right.
A crazy goal by DeAndrea to give them the lead, but the turning of the tide was that penalty because
Absolutely.
then they scored 2 power play goals on the major penalty.
Yeah.
From that point on, you could just see the wind was taken out of the Kings Park sails.
Mm-hmm.
They just, from that point on, just seemed like they were up against the refs, which they may have been. Tough referee game. But we can never know what was said.
Sure.
We can never know, what exactly happened. We just have our vantage point. Obviously, we can't, hear it. But from what we understood was O'Neal took it a certain way. Mm-hmm. And obviously no goaltender ever likes to have anybody in their crease.
Right.
It's not what you want. It's not what you need. It's, it's bad. Players try to clear it out. Terry is known as one of the instigators around the league. Mm-hmm. He has a physical presence about him. Mm-hmm. Say what you will. But I think it was a little mistaken. He was getting shoved and ended up nicking O'Neal, like a little like skate clip. Mm-hmm. And maybe O'Neal saw it a little differently than it really happened. Mm-hmm. And he gets tied up with him. They go behind the net as the play goes the other way. And then to answer your question of was it prompted? The league just has a policy of you fight, you're out.
Yeah.
O'Neal took it, jabbed at him a couple times. Mm-hmm. Quinn came in, laid a stick down on him. It was bad.
Yeah.
Was it prompted? They're holding their policy.
Yeah.
It's consistent, right? Because if you're going to call it one way one time, you can't not call it the same way another time just because of who it is.
Right.
Obviously, you don't want to get him out of there because the game means so much.
Yeah.
It's such a massive game between two massive teams. The implications are high. You have to know what it means, but you have to hold your standards. And in the referee's opinion, that game was going to get out of hand after what happened, and they couldn't let it go on. If it's the end of the third, maybe you let it go. Maybe you just give him a major, you keep him in the game, but fighting is an ejection. That just is what it is. And I think, in a weird way, if you look back at Ward Melville, Middle Country, the way that transpired, they didn't want it to get there.
That's true.
Because if it gets there again, then you're really you've lost control of the league.
Yeah.
They took control of that game. It got a little bit better after what happened there. But I think in a weird way, where Kings Park and St. Anthony's were not involved in that game, they were, because now just everybody needs to watch their backs, because if you go out and play over physical, like pushing, shoving, if it's too much after the whistle, I think the referees are going to be more inclined now to get them out of here.
Yeah.
We're done. We're not dealing with this. Monday night was too much, and this might be coming down from all the way upstairs.
Yeah.
Like the league, the head of the leagues are saying, too much, cut it off, get control, this can't happen again.
Yeah, well, we saw that too with East Islip, not once but twice. We saw that in the Sachem game late. That game was, again, the score in that game that's a little bit of a different story there, because that's a 7-goal differential, whereas this is just 4. And then we saw it that same Monday night with Ward Melville and Middle Country? I think it was a Monday.
It was
night.
Monday, yes.
Yeah, and then we saw the game following suit with Connecticut and East Islip. Not even 10 minutes into that game, we had a little bit of a kerfuffle in the corner down there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, and again, on the record here, I'm not just saying this because Kings Park is one of my picks this year to win it all. I'm looking at it from a bunch of different perspectives. I'm looking at it from the goaltending perspective. Do I think Terry was a little close to the crease? Absolutely. But you bring up a fantastic point in the sense that I don't know. Like, I think the push from behind is like, I don't know. I don't think the officials saw it that way. Like, I don't think it's like, okay, both of you go. Like, I don't think, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But obviously the score sheet says one thing. We have just O'Neill going for the major, and then the 2 offsetting minors there with Quinn and Terry. So the major is what stands on the board there.
I think when you look at it as Terry's coming up from the bottom of the pile, and O'Neill and Quinn are on top of him, you can't really get rid of that kid when he's the one getting punched and checked. But I think it's just unfortunate is the word I'll use.
Yeah,
I think it's unfortunate.
I like that.
And I think it's just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to defend yourself and stand up for yourself. You don't want to become a doormat. You want to defend your crease and make sure that he's not just going to walk in and walk all over you. But you have to know what the game means, man. Like, you got to talk about it with Kinkowski. You got to keep your cool, man. So many other players around the league. Just got to keep your cool. He lost it. And that was the difference in the game, in my opinion, because who knows? You have the best first line, the best line period in the Suffolk County High School Hockey League. You have 3 top 10 scores. Nobody else has that. They can get a bounce. They can make something happen, but you lose your goaltender, and nothing against Conor McGrain. He's a phenomenal goaltender in his own right. But to lose O'Neill after getting him back, not having him in the Smithtown game, getting him back, feeling good, knowing what's on the line, you have to win out to really have a legit chance at first place. Your goaltender gets thrown out. How do you feel about that? Like, you're already down 1-0. Now you got to kill off a 5-minute major power play against one of the best power play teams in varsity. It's hard, man. Like, you can't.
No, I get it.
That's the turning point right there. In more ways than one. And be it again, the referees are not. Take him out of it. The score sheet is the score sheet. The game is the game. That's why we play, right? On paper, that game is 1-0. In the grand scheme of things, O'Neill gets tossed. The win gets taken out. St. Anthony's capitalizes. It could have gotten flipped on its head. St. Anthony's could have gotten nothing on that power play, and Kings Park could have rode the momentum. Maybe it's 2-1, 3-2. It changes.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying this either. I'm not saying that the referee sucked or they're the cause of that game. I'm just curious, like, what you think of it, because you were obviously there. You had the firsthand look, and when you have let's be generous here. 50, 100 Kings Park parents to the side of you screaming their brains out about that one. Like, you hear it in the background. Like, let's call a spade a spade. You hear it in the background. You say, "Oh, good job, who and who." Like, that's a big portion in that game, and I totally agree with you. And how crazy would it be if these two meet again in either the semis or they go up to states again? Like, this is a rivalry now. Like,
Yeah.
Like those are two kids in particular, Terry O'Neill, who played last year. They're both seniors now, if I'm not mistaken. I know O'Neill is. I think Terry is as well.
Thank you.
They're both seniors now, so they were both there last year. St. Anthony's obviously has two up on them when you think about it, between the county semis and the state semis. So that's gonna be like, if it happens where those two, even if that's that could be a finals matchup.
Well, the way it works out now, it would have to be a finals matchup.
Yeah.
Because
they're 3 and they're 4.
Barring an upset, yeah.
Yes.
So just the way that it would work out as it stands, and who knows, over this next week it could change. If St. Anthony sticks at 4 and Kings Park somehow miraculously works up to first, then it's a potential semifinal matchup.
Yeah.
Again, barring any upsets, but the way it is now, as it stands, it would have to be a finals matchup.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The other team in this mix after, East Islip, who looks phenomenal. They're my odds-on favorite right now. The way that they're playing hockey,
To win it all.
to win Suffolk.
Okay.
Yes, I think they're playing strong. I think they're doing it at the right time. I think their scoring is really clicking. Their defense has been great all year. The one thing I'm concerned about, the defense with Sachem, is their penalties.
I agree.
I'm very concerned with how many penalties East Islip takes, although they are the best shorthanded team, I believe, at scoring shorthanded goals.
Yeah.
They also give up some of the most power play goals. They're up there. So they've given up 10 power play goals as much as they scored 11 shorthanded. They take almost 300. They've taken almost 300 minutes in penalties this season. So that is my concern, because we look at what St. Anthony's did. They scored half their goals on the power play against Kings Park. Getting into these later rounds, especially even that first round, if you play West Islip or you play Middle Country, West Islip especially is who I want to focus on, because they're in right now. If East Islip plays West Islip and they take too many penalties, that West Islip power play is clicking.
They're gonna kill you.
Alex Potato, Liam Henshaw, Kieran Pollard, Thomas Miller's finding his stride. But I watched it against St. Anthony's. They have this play on the power play now that it scored 2 times, and then they tried it against Ward Melville, and Hintz made the save, but he had to make a desperation save. They've figured out the power play. And obviously it starts with a face-off win, which is, flip the coin, but their power play is going to be the reason that they win a playoff game.
I feel like every time I watch West Islip on the power play and they succeed, it's usually Potato on the far boards. I don't know if that's the play you're referencing there, where he's usually the recipient of the goal score, or he makes a pass.
Him scoring is not what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
No, maybe you haven't seen it, and maybe they just instilled it, but this power play that they have going right now, the way that they're just operating and finding people, it's unbelievable. It's consistent.
Yeah.
Like when Pollard let it go on the power play against Hintz, I was prepped to, here it comes again.
Yeah.
And Chris Hintz made a phenomenal save, but it's just that effective that I'm at the point where I never like to jump calls. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I get ahead of myself and I have to make the correction, but I'm at the point now where I'm anticipating it's going to work.
Yeah.
Because no one knows how to stop it yet that I've seen. And maybe East Islip does. Maybe they'll figure it out. But they need to play smart. Play physical, play fast, because that's what it's going to take. But keep your head and know that you can't just overdo it.
Yeah.
Know that you're the best team right now.
Right.
But play like you're the best team.
I like that. Now, you say East Islip is your odds-on favorite. Who's your challenger right now? This is what I'm curious about.
Like right below them?
Who, like, if East Islip hypothetically goes to the final, who do you think's challenging them?
I mean, the way that it would play out now is they would. So if everything goes if favorites win. So if it's 1 through 4 right now, you see the semifinals of East Islip, St. Anthony's, Kings Park, Smithtown. That semifinal game between East Islip and St. Anthony's is ridiculous. But the way Smithtown's playing right now, or more so, maybe the way Kings Park's playing right now, We'll get into more of this next week when I really want to talk about it, because I want to see how they play Monday. I want to see how they play Monday, and I want to evaluate it more. The way Smithtown's playing, the way that they're closing it out, coming back, they do need to figure out the defense a little bit, in my opinion. They're letting teams come back into games a little too easily. So I think they need just get healthy and really start getting back into it. But I think they are my upset contention for East Islip. Because which I would love to see a final there, because they've tied twice this season, and I need an answer, because like a cliffhanger in a movie is my biggest pet peeve. So this is like the cliffhanger in our movie. I need a 3-game series, decide a winner, it's unanimous, go on ahead. But
no, what's funny about it too is like East Islip's beaten every team this season except Smithtown and Kings Park. They haven't what's the word I'm looking for here? Okay, so they haven't lost to Smithtown yet this year.
Yes.
Like, but they lost to Kings Park, but they could, like, East Side could still be the number 1. So like that, like, are we at the point now where Kings Park is just, I don't know if struggling is the right word, but is Kings Park struggling too much?
As it stands at this moment, before Monday, before we get the reevaluation, before I really take the deep dive and prep for this playoff preview next week, they're in trouble.
Kings Park's in trouble.
They're struggling. Something's not right. Something is wrong.
No, I agree.
They just don't. Maybe they're tired, gassed. I don't know. They're kids. It's been all season, and some teams play at the right time. Some teams don't. I love Kings Park. I think they're dangerous. I think they're complete. I think they have everything that it takes. They're scaring me right now. A little bit.
Right. And I think the one thing to note too for Kings Park is that their final game of the regular season is against Ward Melville. Ward Melville's got nothing to play for, and okay, big whoop. If Kings Park comes out there and beats them, let's hypothetically say 11-0, big whoop.
Yeah.
It means nothing. Like
not that it means nothing. I would just have to see that they're getting back to what made them successful in, beating down West Islip, beating down Middle Country, beating East Islip, getting it to Northport Huntington after they tied, killing Sachem. These are games that, these are, the signature wins. They, took it to St. Anthony's the first time. 7-2. But since they beat West Islip 8-0, it's a 4-2 loss to Sachem, a 4-4 tie, and then that you should feel fortunate to have.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then a 4-0 loss to St. Anthony's. So where'd the offense go?
Yeah. Here's my thing too with that last game with Kings Park. So they play Ward Melville, but as it stands now, so I'm going off hypothetical here again. Again, I sound like a broken record. I apologize, but I'm just going based off the standings right now. Even if Kings Park wins on Monday, let's say for argument's sake, Smithtown wins Wednesday, East Islip wins Wednesday. That keeps the standings exactly where they are right now. Kings Park going to have a much more difficult time against Northwood than they are against Ward Melville. So my point is that even if they beat Ward Melville 11-10-0, if they mercy him, I think that's not a fluke score. That's not a fluke game, obviously, because you got to get a win in that one, and you got to get the confidence back on your side going into the following week for the quarterfinals. But like you said, Northport was up on them in that first game of the season, and they had everybody there, and it's playoffs, so everyone's going to be there for Northport. I'd be shocked if that weren't the case. I don't know. I think I fully agree with you that Kings Park is strong. I think the two teams I'm most concerned for at this point in time is Connecticut 1, Kings Park 2. That's where I'm at right now. I don't put Sachem there because, again, you have 55. I've learned not to bet against that kid this season.
They have a lot of good scores.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even if he has an off night, which he hasn't, never, they have a lot more than just him to really play into it.
The thing, too, with Sachem, too, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off
go
here,
ahead.
but the thing, too, with Sachem is that I applaud the way they ended their season, even though they lose. They were down 4-0, and they come that showed me you can come back in a game where it seems like you're down and out, and I think that means a lot.
And that's a really good point because I want to get into Smithtown here. I want to talk about how they're ending their season. And you're right, they're down 4-0 in that game. They come back 4-3. did Sachem, and then Smithtown wins 5-3. But it's these last 3 games that they've played going into Wednesday, they've had leads, and they've given them up.
Yeah.
And they've come out on top or with at least a point in all of them. But there's something that they need to correct again, which they figured it out in the middle of the season, went into a lull. Smithtown figured it out. Yeah. But St. Anthony's is a test now of can you get out in front and hold the lead? Because that is not an easy team to hold the lead over. Sachem's not an easy team to hold the lead over. St. Anthony's is the same way. Can you figure out the lockdown defense? Because East Islip has it. They'll get out. They don't have to be up 10-0. They were up 3-0. And I knew the game was over.
Yeah.
Not from the way that Sachem looked, but just the way that I know East Islip plays.
Yeah.
Smithtown is capable of that. They have the best defense this season. But can it show up?
Yeah.
Will it show up when it really matters? And Wednesday really matters. Because that you're still up for seeding. Even if Kings Park wins, Smithtown wins, they vault over Kings Park, barring that the goal differential tiebreaker, or it's head-to-head points, rather. Yeah. They have the head-to-head point.
Right.
So Kings Park winning would need St. Anthony's to beat Smithtown, but the defense needs to show up for them.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's very reminiscent because last year at this time, it was a very unique spot where Smithtown had a 1-0 lead on St. Anthony's. St. Anthony's scores the goal late, and I'm a big believer in the sense where if Smithtown held on in that game and won that game 1-0, or even if they win in overtime, I think they're one of 5 teams going up to states last year. Like that to me is the difference.
Think about what a difference it made in their first round matchup. You're playing Kings Park Comac
versus and if they were to win, they would have played East Islip, who they had quite honestly beaten up on last year.
Yeah, and they lost in their opening round to Connecticut Sable, who was a very good team. They went on to the county finals and almost won, but you know that's a difference.
Yeah,
one spot is a major difference, man. We've been talking about it all season, and it might not seem like it because they play on neutral ice all the time, and home changes aren't that big, but it makes a difference. It makes a difference. It does.
Absolutely.
Smithtown being the 2 seed, ready? This is the difference. Smithtown being the 2 seed over the 3 seed, Northport Huntington versus Connecticut Sable. Who would you rather play in round 1?
Connecticut, 100%.
That's the difference. Yeah. You win Wednesday, you play the 7 seed, but you gotta figure out the closing out of the games. You need to close out games. They were down to West Islip. They came back. Fantastic. They were down to Kings Park. Came back, but gave up the lead late. Almost let Sachem back in, but you held it. You finished it off. Yeah. You cannot let St. Anthony's back into this. They've come back into the season after starting 1-4. If you let them back into this game, they're not going to be stopped. They are momentum builders. They possess the puck. They will beat you down and come back. You got to get out early, and you got to hold on.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll touch on one more point, too, about St. Anthony's as far as their puck possession. I think that was one thing for me that really stood out against Kings Park as well, is that to me, even with that, you take the penalties and the power plays off the board, I still think they possess the puck a hell of a lot better than the Knights did. I think that was another big difference to me. Like even if O'Neill stays in that game, blah 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 blah, I think the Ice Friars still possess the puck a lot better than Kings Park did. And I think anytime Kings Park had the puck, it was either in the neutral zone or it was like a scrum in the corner where St. Anthony's was able to just steal the puck right back.
Yes. Kings Park, St. Anthony's does a really nice job of puck possession. That's been their signature all season. Yeah. So we'll see what Smithtown can do. The offense is starting to click more. The Bobby Trites comeback has been huge, major. Yeah. They've really needed that and really needed him to be the all-star that he is, and he has been, and even more. Because he could come back and have done, not much, score a goal, but not a lot. He's come back and he's been maybe better than he was before his injury. He's really turned it up a notch.
Definitely, yeah. We saw it in the West Islip game and we mentioned it. You're out for 6 weeks at that point. You're itching to get back out there. We saw it with Kankowski. Kankowski's first game back, he scores 4 or 5 against Middle Country. One being the OT winner. Trites does his thing. His first goal of the game, and that one when he comes back is against West Islip. These kids want to play, man. That's all you can say.
No, they do. They do. And they're certainly going to, because there's a lot of hockey still left to go. Yeah. But before we finish up, I have just a little fun tidbit trivia for you.
Okay.
Let's test your knowledge and don't look.
Okay.
Do you have the stat sheet? The league leading score. Perfect.
Oh wait, the league leading, just like the kids' names.
So I'm gonna ask you, with one game still to play, There are 10 kids currently with double-digit goals and double-digit assists.
Okay.
Can you name the 10?
Boy.
Here's a hint. They are all not in the top 10 of scoring.
Well, not in the top
So Thomas Ivers is number 7, has 9 goals and 21 assists.
10. Oh, okay. Okay, they're not all in the top 10 of the total points.
Of total points,
Okay,
yes.
got it. Okay. All right. All right. So Brazil Prang, that's 2.
2?
I want to say Noche, but I know it's not him.
Not Nicholas Noche.
You know who it is? It's Trites.
Bobby Trites.
That's 3. Okay. Konkowski,
Thomas Kankowski.
Calbear.
Colin Calbearer, yes.
Yep. 5. Anatra's got to be one of them.
Ryan Anatra is one of them.
Okay. 6. DeAndrea.
Is another one.
Okay. 3 more. Wow, a lot of pressure here. Kata?
Gavin Cotta has double digits.
Wow.
Gavin Cotta has 10 and 14.
Wow. All right. So 2 more. Nope, not Magro.
Nope.
Oh, I'm thinking. Agafonov's 1.
Michael Agafonov is number 9.
God, 1 more. It's not Fleischauer. He doesn't have
It
the
is
assists.
not Fleischauer.
No, it's not him.
Though he was close. Ryan Fleischauer, 13 and 7. This
Pollard
season.
doesn't have the assists.
Kieran
either.
Pollard, 16 and 6.
It's not Tom Ford. He doesn't have the goals for it. Oh, I'm torn. I got 2 names that. Berhalter.
Nicholas Berhalter, number 10. Congratulations,
Thank
Vin.
you.
You did it.
I was debating between him and Billy Collins.
Yes, Billy Collins just on the outside. He has 14 and 8, so could possibly pick it up. Yeah, players that are close. Ivers, if he scores, he'll be there. Peter Petito, a hat trick would get him there. Having a phenomenal season, 17 and 19, or 7 and 19. Excuse me. Kieran Pollard has 16 and 6. So barring that, he picks up 4 assists. James Clifford is at 5 and 15. Fleischauer was 13 and 7. Brady Monteleone was 13 and 7. Alex Potetto 7 and 9.
Wow, good season. For him.
So a lot of very close players. 2 of them in the top 10 that don't have double-digit goals, the Ivers and the Petito lines. So we could see Collins needs 2 assists. If Billy Collins picks up 2 assists, he'll be there.
Doable.
Very doable. So
This just proves 2 things. It proves that I need a hobby outside of doing this. The fact that I'm able to get all 10 without fault. And it just proves the parity we have. Like, any one of these kids can light it up on a given night. It doesn't have to, as much as, Pollard does his thing. You have Berhalter on one. Prang. I'm shocked that Bozzi's. Bozzi's has got to be close, too.
no, I don't believe he is. He's 9 and 5.
Okay.
So he's right there.
Yeah, but still, no. It proves how deep this league is, man. And it's it's a good portion of those kids too. We're gonna see them next year.
Yeah.
That's nuts to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very young, talented league with a lot of promise.
Yeah.
But should be a fun week. So this next week coming up, we will have a playoff preview for Suffolk County, and maybe we'll do one for Nassau County. Maybe we'll do a separate one. Depends on how much time we have.
Their season, for context, ends on the 5th. That's Sunday. So
And then the playoffs start the 6th.
for them, it's the 7th. So they get the 1 day. That's the Tuesday. So we'll get 1 day off.
Tough.
We will be covering all of Nassau's playoffs
Yes.
as well as Suffolk's.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
just to put that out there.
Yes. So definitely Suffolk playoff preview. We'll keep those exclusive should we find the time on that Monday to be able to do something. But we'll figure something out.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, whether it be like a quick thing or whatnot. But it's going to be an exciting last week. Still a lot to decide. Still a lot to figure out. So much fun and much more to have.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to wrap it up for this one.
Definitely.
So big thank you again to Nicholas DeAndrea, Ryan Franks joining us on the podcast. Great interviews from both of them.
Absolutely.
A lot of great insight. And I think that's going to do it for this week.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff that we hit on, and the last week is we're gonna get a real taste of what's to come for the playoffs, especially with the top 4 still being undecided, and you got Middle Country and West Islip who are gonna be trying to deliver that last knockout punch to one another.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking most forward to, is seeing how that's going to play
Yeah.
out, because desperation's a crazy thing, man.
Mhm.
Ward Melville was making a push at the end.
They were.
They just
yeah.
fell a little bit short.
Mhm.
But they were right there.
Mhm.
They had it. But until next time, I think
Mhm.
that's going to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Lisn Ot. Finny Matula, I'm Dylan Flynn, and we'll catch you next time for the playoff preview right here on the LI Sports Network.